Well, good afternoon, everyone. Nick Weig here at the Alert Center. We are coming on our social media channels and our 24/7 weather channel because we are awaiting what we hope will be history at the Kennedy Space Center later this afternoon as Artemis II is set to take off for the moon in just a little over an hour. This would be the first crewed flight around the moon since 1972. They won't be landing on the moon, but they're going to do one rotation around a free return trajectory and come back to Earth. This is sort of a proof of concept of the systems of the rocket, furthering efforts to land on the moon ultimately with Artemis IV. Let's go ahead and take you out live now to the Kennedy Space Center. There you see crews still working on the launch pad. There was an issue with the flight termination system that they've been troubleshooting here for about an hour or so, and they actually were able to get a fix done. We just got word from launch control that that fix has resolved the issue, and they are again go at the launch pad where refueling and pressurization of the fuel tanks continues right now, and so far that has gone on without any issues. There you see Launchpad crews are getting ready to close the external door. There's an interior door that they sealed off once the astronauts crawled into the capsule about an hour and a half ago, and now they're in the process of going through all of their checks to make sure that that capsule door, the external capsule door there you see them closing right now, is closed and sealed appropriately, not only to protect the astronauts, but to also make sure that recovery crews in the Pacific Ocean 10 days from now are going to be able to properly open those doors and retrieve the crew. So they're just very carefully and meticulously checking those seals, and they will hopefully have their work wrapped up here in the next 10 to 15 minutes, and then within the next 15 or 20 minutes we should see the last of the launch crew leaving the launch pad and heading to their safe distance from the launch pad, which is usually at least 2 to 4 miles, I believe, before the rocket, which is right now scheduled to lift off at around 5:24 Central Time. You see we do have our mission clock. It says L- in the upper left of your screen. That is the launch time. You probably traditionally heard of T-, that's the terminal time. They do still use T-, but because of the way that it operates, they do a series of holds, and it gets kind of confusing when trying to figure out when the rocket's going to launch. So once the L- mission clock hits 10 minutes, when they are go for launch, they will go ahead and sync up, and we should see that switch to T-, and then they will begin the final process of hopefully launching this rocket. It is a very tedious process in those final minutes, doing the final checks, the final activations as the rocket switches over to internal power and to battery power. And then we believe not long after launch, we will begin getting external views from the Orion capsule. NASA has promised that they've done a lot of work to upgrade the 4K cameras inside and outside the capsule, so there'll be more views than what we saw during the uncrewed mission of Artemis II back in 2022. Again, there you see the flight crew working on the final seals on the external door on the Orion capsule. We are just about 68.5 minutes from the scheduled launch of the Artemis and the Space Launch System, the SLS rocket. Now, we did hear from the astronauts aboard Artemis before they climbed into the cockpit. I want to give you a quick reminder about the crew of the Artemis mission. We'll go ahead and take the clock down for just a moment. Mission Commander Reed Weissman is leading the crew on this mission. He served aboard the International Space Station in 2014, and then after the passing of his wife to cancer back in 2020, he left the active astronaut corps but served as the chief of the astronauts for NASA before returning to the active astronaut roster. He will be the commander of this mission as they attempt to go further than any humans have gone before, slightly further than the distance around the moon that Apollo 13 took during its emergency free return trajectory. The pilot of this flight is Victor Glover Jr. He flew aboard the SpaceX Crew Dragon in 2018. He also served aboard the ISS in 2020, and he actually oversaw the development of the landing system in Artemis, which it was scheduled to splash down in about 10 days in the Pacific Ocean, southwest of the United States. Glover, another experienced astronaut, but of course, none of these astronauts have any experience outside of low Earth orbit, something that NASA has not done, again, since 1972. There are 2 mission specialists aboard this flight. Christina Koch, mission specialist who's undergone expeditions to the Arctic and the Antarctic for scientific research. She also served 328 consecutive days aboard the International Space Station, and she was part of the first all-female spacewalk to conduct work on board the ISS. The other mission specialist, the one non-American aboard, is Canadian Jeremy Hansen. He is the other mission specialist, and again, representing the Canadian Space Agency. Part of his work, this is his first time actually in space, but he has done other unusual missions, including living underground as part of a research project for 6 days, and then living on the ocean floor for a full week as part of scientific research. Now, again, this crew, highly experienced in what they are preparing to do. They've been preparing for this mission for well over 2 years when they were initially named the flight crew. And originally, when they were named, Artemis III was to be the first mission to land on the moon, but that has been pushed back to Artemis IV. However, NASA is trying to accelerate the schedule of rocket launches, right now at least, although delays do tend to easily pop up. They are hoping Artemis IV will launch before the end of next year, but that is contingent on their commercial partners in designing a working lunar lander. That is in the hands of several partners, originally in SpaceX, but SpaceX has been suffering delays with its Starship project. As for the astronauts aboard Artemis II, here's what they had to say a short time before getting on board the Orion space capsule.
I also hope we are pushing the other direction, that one day we don't have to talk about these first, that one day this is just, and I listen to this, that this is the human history. It's about human history. It's the story of humanity, not black history, not women's history, but that it becomes human history.
It is our strong hope that this mission is the start of an era where everyone, every person on Earth can look at the moon and think of it as also a destination.
What you're seeing here is, yes, a Canadian is going to go into deep space. That's an extraordinary thing because of our the American space leadership that curated that. But I hope others outside of Canada feel part of this too, because this is just an acknowledgement of anybody who shows up and is able to contribute something meaningful to our future endeavors can be part of this mission. And so I hope the Commonwealth feels or sees himself in this mission. I hope all the international partnerships see themselves flying on this mission, because they truly are.
This is a test flight. This is the first time we're going to try this. This is the first time we're loading humans on board. And I will tell you, the 4 of us, we are ready to go. The team is ready to go, and the vehicle is ready to go. But not for 1 second do we have an expectation that we are going. We will go when this vehicle tells us it's ready and when the team is ready to go. So we might go out to the pad and we might have to try again a few more times, and we are 100% ready for that.
And NASA does have additional launch dates, I believe, through Sunday that they can try. The launch window for today is 2 hours. Now, this was earlier this afternoon as crews were helping the astronauts suit up. There you see those recliners to keep them comfortable. It's quite a long process, plenty of layers, cooling systems, oxygen systems as well. There you see an OK signal from one of the astronauts as they are pressurizing those suits, making sure that they're getting enough oxygen and they're remaining plenty cool. They will wear those suits throughout the launch before removing them and switching into more comfortable gear for the majority of their launch. They will wear these spacesuits again during re-entry, again approximately 10 days from now. After getting those suits all ready to go, the astronauts then made their way outside to the shuttle you see there, the Earth-based shuttle that was taking them to the launch pad. This is them climbing into the elevator aboard the launch pad and then making their way up there. You see them walking right by those powerful rockets. Now, the Space Launch System actually uses the same rockets that the space shuttle used, and then the boosters are new. These are the very heavy lift boosters that produce millions upon millions of pounds of thrust in order to get enough velocity to not only reach orbit with the amount of weight they're carrying, but give them enough momentum so that they can fire an additional burn sometime tomorrow and escape the Earth's gravity and enter into the moon's gravity well, and then perform that slingshot in about 4 or 5 days. Again, as we said, this is a pretty diverse crew, and they will certainly be ready if this mission does get off the ground. This was a few days ago as the full moon passed by the Artemis on the launch pad. Obviously a picturesque sight getting ready for this mission, as the final checks are being done right now as we're approaching that 1 hour mark before the official launch. Let's go ahead and take you back out live. There you see NASA's crew broadcasting what they're seeing on the ground. There is a look at some of the food that they have aboard. All 4 astronauts were able to request certain foods and beverages that are obviously specially packed and vacuum sealed in order to give them the ability to eat them. They do have ways of heating food up there and keeping food cold. But obviously they're in, I believe they're showing those right now, these sort of a meal ready to eat kind of format, but they have to be in these tubes in many cases because they're going to be eating in zero gravity. You can't just put food on a plate and expect it to stay there because it's not going to do that. So this is something obviously NASA has a lot of experience with, not only with the early flights in Apollo, but also with the space shuttle program where astronauts stayed in orbit upwards of 2 weeks, and the International Space Station where astronauts have stayed in space for more than a year at times during their deployment to the space station. One person who has had experience in space is Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, who is at the Kennedy Space Center watching today's events, and here's what he had to say just a short time ago.
I mean, these guys are going to the moon. You know, it's a combination of excitement, but also nervousness about you're climbing into a rocket and you've got 8.5 million pounds of thrust right on your back. You're going from 0 to 17,500 miles an hour in like 8 minutes.
Certainly a not for the faint of heart, as they will be right now sitting above several million pounds of liquid fuel that is set to ignite now in just under 1 hour. The scheduled launch is for 5:24 Central Time here in Nebraska and Iowa. And so far, there's only been one hiccup in the process with an issue with the flight termination system, but we're told just about 10 minutes ago that issue was resolved and the launch remains a go as scheduled. There was 80% fair weather expected for this launch. So far, no problems in the weather department have popped up. But again, this is obviously going to be watched to the final second. In fact, roughly around 30 or 33 seconds before launch, they actually hand over that to the computers. This is something they've done for decades, where it's actually automated systems that will make the final determination on a go, no-go for launch. That system has been used or has activated in cases of the space shuttle, that flight termination system. There was an incident with the shuttle where a critical failure was detected just seconds before the solid rocket boosters were activated, and the computer shut the launch down before any problem could occur during the launch. There is a live look at the Artemis spacecraft sitting on the launch pad right now. 58 minutes left to go if we don't see any more delays in the countdown. This is a significant event for NASA that has endured years upon years of delays in the Artemis program, relying on a lot of private commercial help to get this mission off the ground, and that has resulted in additional delays. But the fact of the matter is the systems are ready to go, and we are now sitting at 57 minutes before launch. Let's go ahead and show you what it looked like as the Artemis was rolling out to the launch pad. It actually had to come out twice. They were hoping to get this mission off the ground in February, but like with Artemis I, there were leaks detected during the fueling process and what they call a wet dress rehearsal, where they basically do everything but launch. They fuel up the tanks and they check for leaks, and leaks were were found in each case. It was determined the repairs needed to be made could not be done at the launch pad, and so they had to delay launch for over a month as they rolled it back into the giant vehicle assembly building you see there. And then finally, just about a week or two ago, Artemis was ready to come out and take another shot at this. So far, those leaks have not presented themselves this time. That is the good news. No other problems have come up with the exception of the flight termination system, but that has already been resolved. And so right now, the launch is a go for Artemis II, the first crewed spacecraft to leave Earth orbit and fly around the moon before returning safely home. That could all get underway now in 56 minutes and 24 seconds. Let's go ahead and take you back now to NASA's feed from the Kennedy Space Center live, where they are monitoring along with everybody else that is gathered at the site. Let's listen in.
Back in Seattle, the Museum of Flight. Again, people gathered there to show their kid. We see someone walking in the second row there. His first crewed launch to the moon. How exciting.
That is exciting.
Hello, everyone.
Woo.
Oh, that's so great. And now let's get you up to speed on what's happened so far. Again, we are now within an hour of the opening of our launch window. So what has been happening so far today? Well, a lot. After waking up and grabbing a bite to eat, our Artemis II crew suited up inside the historic crew quarters, a tradition that dates back decades. Teams helped them into their custom Orion crew survival suits, and just like other crews before them, they gathered around a table for a card game to pass the time, but to also burn off any lingering bad luck before they walked in the footsteps of every NASA astronaut launching from Kennedy Space Center since Apollo 7 in 1968. They walked outside the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building to greet a crowd of family, friends, supporters before getting into their Astrovan for their security-escorted ride out to historic Launch Complex 39B. They got a close-up look at the SLS rocket, then walked across the crew access arm and climbed one by one inside their Orion spacecraft. After that, teams conducted final checks with the crew before closing both hatches, the crew module hatch, as well as what you're seeing there, the launch abort system hatch. And now we are back live at the pad where the closeout crew is getting ready to leave the White Room. They are now tethered, Nicole, because they are about to move some pieces that connect the Orion spacecraft to the White Room, correct?
Yes, there's kind of what I would call a shroud. You can see them working that there. So it is actually connected so that way the gap between the crew access arm and the crew module, and well, I guess that's the LAS there, is covered. But they're about to remove that so that the crew access arm is not connected to the rocket in any way so that it can retract here in the next few minutes.
And for how we're looking with the launch countdown milestones, let's go to Daryl Nail in the Launch Control Center.
All right, thank you very much, Megan. And as you can see there, the finishing touches, as you've been talking about, to the LAS, which brings me to that subject because we currently are hearing the launch team is working an issue that was reported out with the LAS. At least there's an issue apparently with a battery on the LAS. The engineer who is in charge of the launch abort system sits on console here, reported that a temperature for one of the two LAS batteries is out of range. And although it's not a constraint for launch right now, it would be when that temperature is checked inside of T-minus 6 minutes, which is inside of terminal count. So right now, the team is working some troubleshooting on this issue. Going to follow, of course, along closely with what they learn. But again, a battery temp for one of the two batteries on the LAS is out of spec, and the team is working to understand, first of all, whether or not this may be a sensor issue or is there an issue with the battery itself. So again, looking into it, troubleshooting and researching as we speak. With regards to the weather, we did get some good news there. Launch Weather Officer Mark Berger reporting to the launch director that the weather chances have now improved for the window. We are up to 90% go, which is great news. Again, 90% go. That is up from the 80% that we started when we had the first weather forecast come out officially 3 days ago. And so that is great. And for anybody who's here in the launch area knows that is certainly viewable. They can see that by just looking up. So we're getting some good clearing as forecast. And then just a reminder for those people who are watching the launch from the nearby area that if you're watching on an internet-enabled device, just remember that there may be a little bit of a delay. Can't tell you how much of a delay, but since it's on an internet device, sometimes this broadcast might be a little behind what you're actually seeing. So just keep that in mind as you are watching. Don't wait to the last second to run outside if you're inside your RV or your camper or your house. That's the latest here from the firing room. Of course, we'll keep track of that last battery issue. We'll send it back now to Megan.
And there you heard the latest from Launch Control that there is a battery issue aboard Artemis II, a battery temperature issue. No indication whether or not it is significant enough to pause the launch. Officially, the T-minus countdown, I believe, is already in a hold. That is a scheduled hold. And once we get to 10 minutes before launch, the L-minus and T-minus clocks will sync up if they are a go for launch. I want to run down some of the things that we are going to be keeping an eye out for during this launch, what we expect to see from flight control and launch control if this does get up off the ground as scheduled. A final briefing is now underway. That's where they're likely discussing that battery issue right now. And then, as you see there, the launch crews are doing their final checks, unless there's something they can do about the battery issue. And I would assume there is really nothing left for them to do because that is all internal. You see that they will eventually, this is known as the closeout crew, they will leave the launch pad and get to a safe distance. They need to do that generally before 40 minutes before the launch, so they have some time. There you see inside the Orion capsule right now as they're giving us an introduction into the astronauts. Let's listen in.
Space station from May through November 2014. During the 165-day mission, Reed and his crewmates completed more than 300 science experiments in areas like human physiology, medicine, physical science, earth science, as well as astrophysics. They actually set a milestone for station science by completing a record 82 research hours in a single week. He also served as chief of NASA's astronaut office from December 2020 to December 2022. His two daughters were out to wave goodbye to him as he made his way to the launch pad. And again, there's Reed's feet. Reed is the one sitting in the seat to the right, closest to our camera there. So looks like he's relaxed by the body language of his feet.
Yeah, I think they're kind of in a holding pattern, if you will, or a waiting period. So it makes sense that he's a little bit relaxed. He's also kind of just a relaxed person in general. He's wicked smart, but has a demeanor that keeps everybody calm. And so I think we're seeing that here today.
And so in this shot, Reed is the one sitting on the left, and to his right, Artemis II pilot Victor Glover. NASA selected the California native as an astronaut in 2013, and at the time he was actually serving as a legislative fellow in the United States Senate. His first trip to space, November 2020, pilot of NASA's SpaceX Crew 1 mission. That was the first operational mission of NASA's Commercial Crew program, which resumed launching American rockets from American soil to the International Space Station since the end of the shuttle program. Victor is a U.S. Navy captain and naval aviator who served as a test pilot, racking up more than 3,500 flight hours in more than 40 different aircraft. So again, he probably feels pretty at home in the pilot seat of Artemis II.
Yeah, I think he does.
He got to say goodbye to his wife and 4 kids. Again, those were the family that he had here at Kennedy Space Center before the 4 of them drove out to the pad.
Yeah, and you can see there, we talked about Victor's energy earlier, and you could see him working through, pushing some buttons on the displays. Looked like he was pulling up a procedure, so he's following along and ready to go, looks like.
And then mission specialist Christina Cook, sitting on the upper left-hand corner of the screen there, native of Grand Rapids, Michigan, was selected to the Astronaut Corps in 2013, same class as Victor. Served as flight engineer on the International Space Station from March 2019 to February 2020. During that time, she set a record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman, with a total of 328 consecutive days in space. How cool. She also participated in the first ever all-female spacewalk. And before becoming an astronaut, Christina helped build space science instruments and led scientific fieldwork in some of the most remote environments on the planet. Her hobbies include surfing, rock climbing,
and
community
CDR,
service, yoga, and photography.
Go ahead, NCD. There's a couple of suppressed overvolt messages. We're going to go ahead and clear those off your screen. We see them and we copy. All right.
NASA test director.
We're still working here, trying to get through everything. So we're getting close, and then trying to talk that other issue that we just picked up a little bit ago. But I think work-wise, we're doing really well.
Sounds good, NTD. We're doing great on board.
And there you hear flight control speaking to the astronauts aboard the Artemis capsule, letting them know that there are some additional, sounded like some overvolt errors appearing on their view screens. They were clearing those out. Those were either false alarms or nothing to be concerned about. They are still working an issue on a battery temperature issue that we just learned about a few minutes ago. So far, it doesn't appear to be a major alarm with that. Obviously, they need to work the problem, figure out if it is in fact a problem, or if it's a false indicator, or if it's something that can be resolved relatively easily. That is what they're working on right now. Let's listen in on the Canadian aboard, Jeremy Hansen.
Control Center in Houston. CAPCOM stands for Capsule Communicator and is the sole direct voice communicating with astronauts while in space. Jeremy also participated in training exercises, really cool ones like living on the ocean floor off the coast of Florida to simulate deep space exploration for a week. In 2017, he became the first Canadian to lead a NASA astronaut class. He also enjoys getting out on a sailboat, rock climbing, and mountain biking. He has a wife and 3 children. And he's the one that you see bottom left-hand corner of your screen. I know, I'm trying to see what he's doing there. Christina's looking too. And so there is your Artemis II crew inside the Orion spacecraft. And this is actually the 7th time NASA astronauts will launch on a new NASA spacecraft designed for crew. And if you're wondering about the first 6 crewed test flights, here they are.
All systems are go.
Gemini 3, Gus Grissom, John Young, March 23, 1965. Apollo 7, Wally Schirra, Don Isley, Walt Cunningham, October 11, 1968. Space Transportation System, or STS-1, John Young, Robert Crippen, April 12, 1981. Then NASA's SpaceX Demo 2, Doug Hurley, Bob Behnken, May 30th, 2020, followed by NASA's Boeing crew flight tests. Butch Wilmore, Sonny Williams, June 5th, 2024. And now, Artemis II with Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy. It is really...
There you see some of the other, as they put it, test launches over the years. The various launches that the crew has undertook for the first time from the Mercury and Gemini capsules all through Apollo and the Space Shuttle and the commercial flights from SpaceX and Boeing, and now Artemis will conduct its first crewed test flight here shortly. Again, there you see the mission clock in the top left of your screen, 42 minutes, 10 seconds to go in the countdown. They are still working out a problem, we are told. We are still standing by to hear exactly what needs to be resolved. If it can be resolved, if it can't, they can scrub this mission for today. They do have additional launch windows the rest of the week, I believe, moving into the weekend. They have a 2-hour window beginning at 5:24 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And that is the time that they are aiming for right now. Again, they can hold the countdown if needed. They can hold it for up to 2 hours if they have the ability to work the problem. But right now it appears that crews, there you see, that is the closeout crew, appears to be leaving the launch pad as scheduled. They're scheduled to be out of there by L-40 minutes. Here you see video of the flight crew as they have done 2 years of training for the Orion spacecraft. Let's listen in.
With the coldest, darkest places in our solar system. This is a test mission, and when we get off the planet, we might come right back home. We might spend 3 or 4 days around Earth. We might go to the moon. That's where we want to go, but it is a test mission, and we are ready for every scenario as we ride this amazing space launch system in the Orion spacecraft.
But another reason we're going back to the moon is to fulfill NASA's mission, which is to explore the unknown in air and space, to innovate for the benefit of humanity, and to inspire the world through discovery. And when we succeed and when we accomplish the things that we set out to accomplish, that inspiration not only can set up new things to happen, but it also is a reminder in tough times that we're capable of doing great things when we work together.
The thing I love about the moon is that it's not just a beacon for exploration and this platform of possibilities for incredible missions like this, but it has benefits. That's actually why we're racing towards it. Those benefits are really wide in nature. You have everything from innovation, technology development, not only for future missions going deeper into the solar system, but technologies that come back to Earth. You have inspiration, a whole generation of people starting this pipeline of STEM workers and manufacturers and operators that are excited to see what you can do when you work hard and you come together as a team.
When I think about the 4 of us flying around the far side of the moon, seeing that Earth rise, taking images and video and sending them back to you, the feeling that I have inside is hope. We know that Artemis II is not the solution for humanity on planet Earth, but it is a contribution in the positive column. We hope that just for a moment that people will pause and say, wow, it's extraordinary when you look back upon the Earth with over 8 billion people, and you see this concrete example of what humanity can do, this extraordinary thing when we set big goals
And CDR entity
to achieve them.
And so Mission Control Houston will control the flight of Orion after a liftoff here at Kennedy Space Center. Here's Gary Jordan, who's embedded with that team. Gary, you might have to pause because we did just hear a call out to the commander
Copy all, Jeff.
in Orion.
Will do, Megan. I think that was Commander Reed Wiseman responding to prepare for some of the next steps. We are now holding at the T-minus 10-minute hold. Expected a 30-minute hold. So we are well on the countdown. We are well on the timeline to meet this L-minus time and launch towards the beginning of the window, but continuing to track progress along the way. Again, I'm here with the Artemis II flight control teams in Mission Control Houston. The team in the room behind me has been monitoring the countdown and verifying their own mission-specific launch criteria of the Space Launch System, the Orion spacecraft integrity, and its crew. During the final poll before launch, if all looks good from each of the flight controllers in this room, Flight Director Judd Freeling will report a go for launch from Houston Flight. Upon liftoff, teams here take control of the mission and communicate with the crew while they fly on the Space Launch System. This phase of flight is highly dynamic, and each console position has a dedicated and important role of looking after critical systems. You'll hear calls from Capcom and NASA astronaut Stan Love in this room to the Artemis II crew as milestones are reached during the more than 8 minutes of powered flight on the core stage. Liftoff and Ascent are just the beginning. This room will be staffed around the clock over the next 10 days to oversee every moment of the mission through splashdown. Here from the Johnson Space Center, we'll be streaming the mission live 24/7 so anyone can follow the crew's journey, take peeks inside the spacecraft, and share the experience of a lunar flyby with astronauts looking down at the moon's surface. Teams here have been rehearsing tirelessly in simulations to throw every conceivable and inconceivable scenario their way. We are ready and eager to begin the Artemis II mission. Still milestones to come as we continue the countdown, but we'll be right back with you during the ascent phase of today's flight. With that, Megan, I will send it back.
And there you have the latest update from Launch Control. They are in their T-minus hold right now. The official T-minus clock now stands at 10 minutes. There you see in the upper left portion of your screen the L-minus time. This is a 30-minute hold, which got underway about 3.5 minutes ago. And so if all goes well, here's what's going to happen next. Right now, they are continuing to work that problem, or at least determine whether or not it is a problem for launch, and we're waiting to hear the outcome of that. Right now, the closeout crew, which sealed the hatch and made sure that the crew was in the Orion capsule properly, is making their way away from the launch pad to a safe distance. This is a Launch Complex 39B, for those who recall some of the launch pads used for the space shuttle and the Apollo spacecraft. The final test director briefing is underway, and then in about 10 minutes, we will see a final briefing take place. We may not see that actually, but this is the transition team to Orion to Earth communication loop. They will hold the final briefing, and then at L-minus 17 minutes, so in about 18 minutes or so, the launch director at the Cape will poll all of the sectors in launch control and essentially deliver that go, no go for launch. Then if we get an all go for launch, the astronauts will be instructed at 15 minutes before launch to put their visors down, and they will do a final check of their spacesuits and make sure everything is ready for launch. And then at 10 minutes before launch, you will hopefully see the clock switched from L- to T- as the clocks then sync up and the final steps are made as we'll see the crew access arm that's now connected to the Orion capsule swing away. And then final pressurization checks will go on where they are continually refueling those tanks so that they are filled to the top when the countdown reaches 0. And then finally, all of the systems aboard the Artemis spacecraft will switch from electrical power to internal battery power. And then just about 30 seconds before launch, they will put the computer in charge of determining whether or not to fire the rockets or abort at the last second. So this is a very technical process. I don't think I'm surprising anybody by telling you that they are going to have to go through. And if they can get through that, and we do see a launch here in just about 34 minutes, then it's the next step. It will take several minutes to complete the launch process, and then what we will see is the Artemis spacecraft separating from the main rocket there. And over the next 24 hours, they're going to be separating from the service module there and then conducting some maneuvers to basically test out the maneuvering thrusters aboard the Orion capsule. This is necessary for any maneuvering that they need to do to get into the right position or orientation, whether it's for docking in Earth orbit or docking in Moon orbit in the future. However, the current plans for landing on the Moon have scrapped what was known as the Gateway system, which would have been an orbiting outpost in lunar orbit. That has been scrapped for the Artemis IV landing on the Moon. However, they will check these systems, and then at some point tomorrow, they will get the go for translunar injection, and they will fire their main thruster, their main rocket, and escape Earth's gravitational pull and get into the Moon's gravitational pull. And they will fly around the Moon one time and do a free return trajectory, ending up tens of thousands of miles behind the Moon, further than anybody has ever traveled before, further than the Apollo missions. And then they will slingshot around the Moon back to Earth for a landing in the Pacific Ocean. Now let's take a look at that flight path here to give you a better look at that. There you see liftoff and the orbits around the Earth. And it won't be a traditional low Earth orbit you see there, as they're going to be building up speed as they fire their rockets, and then they'll make that long 2 to 3 day journey to the moon before they will make their free return trajectory around it and build up as much speed as possible. Once they reach re-entry above the Pacific Ocean, I believe the estimates are 6 to 7 miles per second that they'll be traveling aboard the Orion spacecraft. Let's go ahead and come back out here live right now as NASA appears to be doing some promotional stuff on the live stream. We are 31 minutes and 45 seconds away from the launch of the Artemis spacecraft. They are working on a battery temperature issue, but they have not held the count yet. They have roughly 21 minutes now to work the problem before a final go, no-go for launch has to be undertaken before they commit to the final 10 minutes of this launch. Now, they're hoping to launch right at the start of this launch window at about 5:24 p.m. Central Daylight Time. But they do have a 2-hour window, so if they need to pause it and make a change or do something to fix the issue, they have 2 hours to do it. If they can't do it in those 2 hours, then they scrub the launch. They'll have to bring the astronauts back down from the rocket, and they can try again as early as tomorrow. I believe they do have launch windows every day through Saturday or Sunday before they would have to put off a launch for quite a few days or weeks. But there you see right now, everything for now is a go as we approach the 30-minute mark before that launch window opens. And right now we're just standing by to get any additional information from launch control as the flight director is working with his team to determine if they're ready to go. And again, in about 15 to 20 minutes, they are going to have to make a final decision, go, no go for launch for the Artemis spacecraft. They can hold this launch for up to 2 hours, but after that, the decision is out of their hands. Here's a live look from several miles away at the rocket on the launch pad right now. There you see the Space Launch System, as well as the 2 large boosters on each side of the orange rocket, the Orion capsule on top of all of that, as it will lift off hopefully in less than 30 minutes. There you see the mission clock running on the upper left portion of your screen. And if all goes well, we will not see that clock stop. If there is a hold, we would expect that hold to take place sometime around 10 minutes before the launch, 10 to 15 minutes. That is when they will give the final go, no go for launch before counting down the final minutes. So the astronauts have been aboard the spacecraft now for going on almost 3 hours. And really, they are just going through their systems and their checklists and making sure that they have everything ready to go when the time comes. And that is what they continue to do. And the launch control and mission control, which is in Houston, actually, are keeping them apprised of the situation. And so far, they are continuing the countdown at this time. Again, after launch, some of the things that we'll be looking at after launch is the solid rocket booster separation. Just after 2 minutes after launch, just after 3 minutes, we'll see the local abort system. That's the tower on top of the Orion capsule eject away. At that point, they should have enough speed that they would not need to make an emergency landing in the ocean. 8 minutes after launch, we should see MECO, or main engine cutoff, and then we'll see the core stage separation almost immediately thereafter. And the Orion capsule and the service module will begin maneuvers in about 3 hours after launch before they separate and the Orion spacecraft makes its way tomorrow to the moon. Tomorrow at roughly 6 or 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time, they'll conduct the translunar injection burn after spending a day testing systems, deploying satellites, and raising their orbit to build up some speed. And then they will work on essentially systems that need to be checked for an actual moon landing, including an additional correction burn, demonstrating emergency first aid aboard the craft, and then also testing communications through NASA's Deep Space Network. NASA obviously tested a lot of systems for both communication and for video feeds aboard Artemis I, which was uncrewed, and ultimately that led to some issues that they are promising to resolve and deliver 4K images, is their hope, live from the Orion spacecraft inside and out during this mission. So the live streams from NASA will not end with the launch. They will continue that. Finally, they will reach the lunar flyby in about 6 days from now, or 5 days from now, rather. Some of the things that they'll be checking as they're approaching the moon is reviewing their imaging plan, conducting drills on rapid spacesuit and pressurization as putting those on, and then also additional course correction burns throughout the flight path. Eventually, they'll make their closest approach to the moon, and then just a few minutes later, they will reach their maximum distance from the Earth, which could set an all-time record for human spaceflight. After all of that, day 7 of this mission will essentially be an off day. They'll do their final flyby from the moon, or of the moon, as they head back towards Earth and conduct one correction burn, and that is essentially it. Then in the final days, as they're making their way back to Earth, they'll be demonstrating some of the piloting capabilities of the Orion spacecraft and monitoring radiation shielding. There had been some concern because of some solar activity in recent days that could impact the launch, but the solar activity was not directed at the Earth. That's something that could change, but NASA does have protocols in place to ensure that if there was a large burst of radiation endangering the astronauts, that there is a safe place aboard the spacecraft that they could seek shelter as they pass through that area.
It takes an army to pull a mission together.
Just keeping an eye on the feed from NASA to see if we get any updates on the countdown as we're getting closer to that critical 10-minute mark. Now, on day 10 of the flight, we will have a scheduled splashdown, and this begins at about 400,000 feet above the Earth. The entry interface begins all the way down to 36,000 feet before the first covers deploy and the drogue parachutes deploy, and that will slow them down from essentially supersonic speed down to hopefully a more calm 10 to 20 miles per hour at splashdown. They will conduct a final power down of the craft, and then the crew will be recovered and on board a vessel within 2 hours. They will ensure that not only the crew makes it on board, but the spacecraft as well. Now, as for the weather, everything is a go. I believe they said 90%, which is about as perfect as you can get for a space launch in Florida at this time of year. And right now, all eyes are on that spacecraft you see there as we're waiting to hear if we are go, no-go for launch. We could get that polling conducted. Let's see here. That polling is scheduled for L-minus 17 minutes. So in about 7 minutes, we expect to get a final go, no-go for launch. Now, that doesn't mean that this launch will happen. There can be problems that crop up, but that is the final word from launch control and flight control in Houston, whether or not they are going to attempt this launch on schedule. Again, if they can't get it off on time, they do have a 2-hour window tonight beginning at 5:24 Central Daylight Time in about 23 minutes and 40 seconds. And then they have other windows for several days before they may have to put things on hold, because this all has to do with, aiming a rocket, and it's not actually aimed at the moon. They're going to be orbiting and building up speed, and then they have to direct the craft at where the moon is going to be 4 or 5 days from now. And it takes a lot of math. I know many of you have probably seen the movie Hidden Figures back before computers were able of calculating this math. And it is a long, complex, and technical project to hit that mark in space at nearly 250,000 miles from the surface of the Earth. Let's go ahead and listen to the NASA feed, and as they're running some additional feature information, and then hopefully we should be getting an update from launch control momentarily.
But American exceptionalism isn't inherited, it's earned. Our greatness comes not only from what we've done, but what we're still determined to discover. Because in every era, across every horizon, America is at its best when it's reaching for something greater. America celebrates 250 years, and we are leading the world into the future.
22 minutes, 15 seconds and counting from Artemis II, NASA's boldest test flight in a generation. The crew has said this often, that they hope it inspires children around the world. And recently, a group of kids here at Kennedy Space Center got a surprise of a lifetime while watching that rocket roll to the launch pad.
Nick Weigbeck with you now. We're just cutting into the programming coming from NASA right now as we have received word about that battery issue from Launch Control. Right now, NASA does not believe that the battery issue will prevent this launch. So right now, the launch remains a go, and they remain hopeful that if they can get a final go, no-go on the go side, that we will see this launch potentially take place in 21 minutes and 20 seconds. So far, so good. All hiccups so far have been minor and have either been resolved or they can work through them. Obviously, systems like this have backups upon backups, and that may be ultimately what has decided during those final briefings that they are still a go for launch. Let's take another look now at the crew of Artemis II as we are in these final minutes. They have spent most of the day preparing for launch, as it is a lengthy process to get those spacesuits on and also get in their seats. As we've seen, there is a camera inside the crew capsule that we have seen from time to time. And a little bit cramped space, but they obviously don't have to worry about gravity, so that kind of changes the way that they make themselves comfortable in there. It may not be the coziest ride, but once you get into that 0G, it is a lot easier, certainly, to endure. Now here's a look at the astronauts earlier today as they were getting help getting those suits on. There you see those recliners, because this does take quite a bit of time to get all of that equipment on, and then once it's all on, everything has to be powered on and pressurized before they make their way out to the launch pad, which they did about 3 hours ago. We are now under 20 minutes away from the scheduled launch of Artemis II, and we are standing by for an update from NASA as we should be just moments away from the final go, no-go for launch. Let's go ahead and listen in on the latest from Launch Control.
U.S. Space and Rocket Center here, Huntsville, Alabama, waving to the Artemis II crew sitting right there inside Orion. Inside of 20 minutes from the opening of our launch window, and right now we are targeting the top of that launch window. So we could be launching here in about 19 minutes, Nicole.
Wow, I don't know if I expected this today. I'm excited, and I'm glad they were able to clear the problem with the battery on the LAS, and everything has gone really smoothly today. It's been great. The weather cleared up. It's a beautiful day for a launch.
And so now, as we are so close to possibly launch now, just what are your final thoughts as we are about to embark on a mission back to...
We are in those final moments. Nick Weig here again with you. We are about 90 seconds away from the polling from Mission Control, a final go, no-go for launch, and then the final steps will be taken over the last 17 minutes of the countdown. Again, the T- and L- clocks sync up at 10 minutes. The T- clock is currently on hold at 10 minutes, and we expect once the L- or launch clock reaches 10 minutes, they will sync up, and we should see that switch over to T- time, the terminal time for launch, before the numbers start going in the positive, as Artemis II hopefully clears the tower now in less than 18 minutes.
Integrity, representing humility and the professionalism of everyone that got them there today. So proud of them. We love them. We're excited.
Standing by now to see if they switch over to flight and launch control for that go, no-go poll, which we should hear on the NASA radio. that is what we're standing by for right now. There you see Artemis on the pad, ready to go. Now 17 and a half minutes from launch time. It is, as far as we know, a go heading into the final polling.
We leave you now here at the host desk to get back into operations. We just wanted to answer one question for you guys. We asked you earlier on today, what are you most excited for? And we asked you to go.
They're checking their poll. So we should get that poll here underway in just a moment. That is what we're standing by for. That will be the critical moment for the final steps to ensure that pressurization of the fuel tanks is good, that there are no leaks, and then they will begin shifting all the systems of the spacecraft to internal battery power for the remainder. Let's listen in now.
Update on the launch abort system that you just reported that they cleared. They believe, they're convinced, this is an instrumentation failure. So there are 2 batteries on the LAS. The LAS, of course, and with the help of my 2-year-old son's model rocket, Daniel said I could use this, so it's okay. The LAS is right here. It's the tower above Orion. Orion capsule is inside of here. It's used to pull Orion off the rocket in case something's going on with the rocket, either on the pad or in flight. 2 batteries are bad. Well, I'm sorry, one of the 2 batteries reported an out-of-family temperature, and it was very much out of family. And so they checked their data going back into the vehicle assembly building where they recharged the batteries and worked on them. And they have good, solid data, they reported, that tells them that this is an instrumentation failure, that there's something wrong with the sensor. And so they took it before the mission management team, which has to accept the risk, any changes to launch commit criteria, which this would be one, and they all fully accepted it. So now we are clear as far as that constraint is concerned. And one quick thing as we count down now, we are getting into the final minutes before liftoff. There's a 2-hour window. We haven't quite set the T0 yet, but this is a list of the cutouts. There are 150 cutouts that are included for this 2-hour launch window, and that's important. They're in very small print. That's important because there's basically 16 minutes inside this window that they cannot launch. And these are because of small things flying in orbit. There's a lot more things in orbit than there were back in Artemis I when we had 35 to 40 cutouts. For that reason, because of these 156 cutouts, they're going to be managing the launch window as we go forward. So they may have to wait out one of these cutouts. They range in time between 2 seconds to 23 seconds, but you'll hear the NASA test director talk through that. We're getting ready to merge that loop from NASA test director Jeff Spaulding. And so now I'm listening to the launch team get ready to merge their operational channel. We're now entering one of the most consequential phases of launch day, and that's terminal count, the final 10 minutes.
And OTC, NTD on 212 for comm check.
Good comm. How me?
I hear you the same. STC? GTC?
GTC is on 212.
All right, copy that.
NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding confirming communications with his team. There will be 2 polls that we'll hear. One from Spaulding, the NASA Test Director, confirming the ground systems and the launch team are ready to proceed. At this point, we have a clear board, no constraints, but we need confirmation from each individual on the NASA Test Director team. So we'll hear him poll his team. The other poll that we're waiting for is the poll from Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson who will take that final status from NASA management before giving the go to come out of a hold. And you're seeing the clock count down at L minus 12 minutes.
CCL, OTC, Orion, RS1.
CCL.
Yes, sir. Reconfigure ARS primary loop ISO valves.
Copy, that's in work.
And CDR, OTC, Orion, RS1.
Go.
ARS loop ISO valves are being closed at this time.
Integrity copies.
NGDLP. Go. Yes, I had a discussion with sea ice and with MER manager regarding the observation the sea ice had a few minutes ago. They were able to confirm with BCI photos that the condition that they observed has been there since 2025. MER manager has had a chance to review the findings, and they do not have any constraints from either a sea ice or MER manager perspective.
Okay. Copy all. And Launch Director, NTD, you copy?
Yes, sir. I copy. That's good news.
OTC, CCL 212.
OTC.
ARS primary loop isolation valve configuration is complete.
Copy.
And CGLS, NTD, cancel pending, please.
GLS copies, and that's complete.
All right, and for all personnel, we got a little bit more work to do before we pick up the clock, and we're about a little over a minute from getting to T-minus 10 minutes, but we've canceled the resume time there, and then we'll pick it up after we get through all of our work and anything else that we need to do to get through the remainder of counts. So we'll continue working that to get to our T0 today. So when we get to about 50 seconds from now, we'll extend that hold.
CVSE OTC. CVSE 400-290, looking to verify that we are configured for Ascent.
Yep, give me about 2 more minutes. I'm going to start CMA2 streaming.
Copy.
NTD, COSE, hold requested.
Copy that.
I have an LCC violation of O-CT-004. S-band transponder anomaly. This was a transient LCC violation, so transponder 1 had a demodulated SNR estimate that went down to 2 dBm when it should have been between 10 and 13. It is now back up to 12, but we did lose that for just a moment. It does not appear that we lost our bit sync or carrier lock, which would be indicative that we lost our lock with the vehicle. So at this point, recommendation would still be go. However, we do have a pre-planned contingency procedure if we want to look at that. But again, this is transient, so we're back in a nominal range.
All right, let's see, LPE, NTD.
Yeah, we're not seeing that hit. So I guess the question for COSE, was that less than 3 samples? Is that below our persistence?
Stand by, let me look. It did look like it did persist for several seconds on mine, but let me take a look at the number of samples.
Could I get a repeat on the affected LCC, please?
Yes, ma'am. That's going to be O-CT-004.
Thank you.
Yeah, us taking a look at the data right here, looks like that was a single sample.
Yeah, copy that. RFTS does report that they also lost lock for about 5 seconds. So I would love to ask KUS and see if they also lost lock with the vehicle for any extended amount of period.
And COSE, while we're doing that, these are 1/10 hertz measurements, correct? So we would have had to lose it for over 10 seconds to get a second sample?
Yes, sir, that's correct. It is 1/10 hertz.
Yeah, so from our perspective, the allowance is effectively up to 30 seconds, up to 3 samples based on the 1/10 hertz. This is not an LCC violation, I believe.
Yes, sir. I would agree with that at this point. Copy that.
We're checking with KUS on 232. I don't think they have 212 access. We're trying to verify, but But it sounds like they have a loss of lock as well. About 2 seconds.
Okay. And I guess for both KUS and COSE, do we have lock now?
That's affirmed. We do have lock for COSE.
Nick White here with you. We are standing by listening to a
from the
launch.
integration console perspective, we did have a temporary loss there within the allowable, and per the requirement, let's go.
Okay, they're just doing some checks on some systems, delaying the countdown here at 10 minutes.
Reported to they have good lock now.
And it sounds like they're working through those problems, so we do expect the countdown to resume here.
So with all of that, OSC, then are we going to go configuration per your LCC?
Yes, sir.
Sounds like we're proceeding now.
Right. LP, you concur with that?
Yes, sir. LP concurs, go.
And Launch Director?
Yes, sir. Launch Director concurs, go.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and just verify everybody has everything else complete, Launch Director, and if we do, we'll be ready to pick up the poll at that time, unless there's something else that you're aware of.
No, sir. Let's verify all our work is complete, and I would like one last check of our constraints list.
All right, let's see. OTC, are you still waiting for com config, or are you complete?
That is affirmed, sir.
Okay,
Yeah,
is that the only open item?
Yeah, OTC, this is CVSC. That 400 step 290 is complete. Copy.
Okay, so OTC, you're complete with all of your work?
That's affirmed.
All right, copy that. STC?
STC is complete.
And GTC?
GTC is complete.
Okay, excellent. All right, and LPE, just want to verify we have no open constraints at this time.
No open constraints. We have a clear board, sir.
Okay, tracking the same here. And Launch Director, with that, we are clear and ready to pick up the launch readiness poll with your go.
All right, sir. I am go for the poll.
All right. And for all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the Artemis II launch readiness check. Verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC.
OTC is go.
STC.
STC is go.
GTC.
C's go.
MCO.
CO is go.
Safety Console.
The safety console is go.
LPE.
LPE's go.
RTD.
RTD's go.
Houston Flight.
Poll for launch. Verify no constraints and go for launch. EGS, Program Chief Engineer.
Artemis Chief Engineers are go.
Copy, thank you. LWO and Artemis MMT Chair.
MMTs go.
Thank you, John. And Integrity Launch Director.
Good to hear your voice, Charlie. PLT.
Thank you, Charlie. This is Victor. We are going for our families.
MS1.
This is Christina. We are going for our teammates.
MS2. This is Jeremy. We are going for all humanity. All right, Charlie, your Artemis II crew is go for launch. Full send.
I copy that. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy. On this historic mission, you take with you the heart of this Artemis team, the daring spirit of the American people and our partners across the globe, and the hopes and dreams of a new generation. Good luck. Godspeed, Artemis II. Let's go. And NTD Launch Director.
Go ahead, Launch Director.
Yes, sir. You have a go to proceed with countdown.
Copy that. I'll put it in work. CDR, NTD.
Go.
Your visors and initiate short purge per your EPROC 10.1.1, steps 8 and 9.
10.1.1, 8 and 9 going to work.
Copy. CVSE NTD, start and verify recordings of our Orion cameras.
Copy.
Okay. Well, there you heard it.
RSR NTD.
RSR.
They're getting ready to start terminal count.
SNA arm rotation enable at this time, please.
It's currently at T-minus 10 minutes. Once we wrap up this last bit of work,
SNA arm rotation enable complete.
we're going to start that clock.
Copy that. Thank you.
Integrity crew, close and lock visors.
You heard an issue, worked in real time with telemetry lock on the Orion. It was transitory. It was very short. They checked the data, confirmed that they had a good lock. This was with the S-band transmitter on the Orion. Worked through that issue, looked at the data, and cleared it. All with the world watching. Impressive work by the launch team. So we have a 2-hour window, which starts in just a few minutes at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time and goes until 8:24 p.m. Eastern Time.
And ECL NTD will be waiting for your verification on the short purge.
ECL copies.
And for all personnel, once we get that short purge verification, we'll verify that we are clear to go, and then we'll proceed with the terminal count. ECL time estimate?
About a minute.
Copy.
So we're going into the launch window, but not by much, it looks like. Just wrapping up some final work. And once that's completed, you'll hear NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding ask for the ground launch sequencer operator to go ahead and start the clock. The ground launch sequencer is an application software. It runs on top of the launch control system in the firing room. Acts like a conductor of an orchestra, executing hundreds of commands in precise order and timing. It's all autonomous.
NTD CCL 212, short purge initiations verified.
All right, copy that, and we're verifying our constraints. All right, and we're clear from cutouts. And with that, we're going to resume the clock momentarily. And CGLS, you can resume the clock on your mark.
GLS copies. 3, 2, 1, mark. GLS mainline has been initiated.
T-minus 10 minutes and counting.
And that begins terminal count. Our new T0 is 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. We are now counting down to liftoff of Artemis II. From now on, you're going to hear two voices on the loops. If everything goes nominally, NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding, who's directly managing the launch team, and Alex Bendelos, the GLS operator who closely monitors the software. He has the ability to stop and restart the countdown. A lot of people ask about whether there's a launch button. There certainly is not.
Flight and Rock, our new T0 is 22:35:12.
Houston flight copies. 22:35:12.
Affirm.
There you heard confirmation of the exact T0, 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Again, our T0 is 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. But as I was saying, there's no launch button. This is autonomous. But there is a button that keeps you from launching, and that button allows the GLS operator to pause the countdown outside of terminal count and during terminal count and submit a hold to the next holding point. So the clock won't stop right away. If there's an issue, we'll go to the next stable holding point. This is how GLS configures the rocket and ground systems to a stable point where they can stop the countdown if that's needed. But right now, we are counting down. Our next big milestone, looking to retract the crew access arm.
GLS is go for crew access arm retract.
And there you see the crew access arm moving away. That's the path that the astronauts took to ingress into the rocket. Until this point, that was their way off the pad if they needed to evacuate. But now with that arm retracting, the backup transitions to a launch abort system. And they'll begin arming that shortly. Of course, the launch abort system, great shot there of the crew access arm retracting away. The launch abort system is the tower at the top, and that's what would pull Orion and its crew off the top of the rocket in case of an emergency, whether it's on the ground or in flight. This is critical safety hardware that protects the lives of the astronauts. Starting at T-minus 6 minutes, the GLS will start bringing that and other high-energy systems online, starting with core stage pressurization. Weather is 90% go. The range is go. All systems are go.
GLS is go for core stage tank pressurization.
That means the replenish valve for the liquid hydrogen tank has now closed, and that tank is beginning to pressurize to flight levels because that hydrogen is naturally boiling inside the tank. We'll get the liquid oxygen tank a little later in the count. Now the team is waiting for verification that, if needed, the Artemis II crew could use the launch abort system to pull Orion safely off the top of the rocket in an emergency. Let's listen in for that call.
GLS verifies last capability available.
And CDR, do you copy?
CDR copies, last available.
That's great news, and you heard the NTD verify that with the commander of the mission.
GLS is go for FTS arm.
Now work is being done to arm the flight termination system. This is so the range safety can send a flight termination command if the rocket flies too far off track. There's a brief built-in delay so the launch abort system has time to pull the astronauts to safety first.
GLS is go for LH2 high flow bleed check.
All right, the high flow bleed check. That's so the cryo team gets verification that the RS-25 engines, all 4 of them, are in the proper temperature range for launch.
GLS is go for core stage APU start.
Core stage APUs start. Those are auxiliary power units. High-speed turbines, which provide pressure to hydraulic pumps that steer the RS-25 engines. We're going to see a gimbal test a little later at T-minus 2 minutes and 30 seconds. This is what allows that to happen. Coming up in about 20 seconds, we're listening for go for purge sequence 4. That's a helium purge of the 4 core stage engines downstream of the propellant valve. This gets all the air and moisture out of there.
GLS is go for purge sequence 4.
Moving through the milestones. All is looking good. Coming up in just a few seconds, we're going to get that thrust vector control actuator test. This is a gimbaling of the engines. There are the 4 RS-25s, 3 of them shuttle heritage, 1 of them built from shuttle parts. And there you see them moving. Now we're going to start moving the power from both the upper stage and the lower stage of the rocket to internal, taking ground power away and now going to battery power.
GLS is go for upper stage to internal power.
All right, power is removed from the rocket's upper stage, the ICPS, and it's been switched to battery. Same milestone for the lower core stage coming up at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds. Right now, the 4-person Artemis II crew is 248,000 miles away from the moon. And if all goes well, they will fly by it in 6 days.
GLS is go for core stage to internal power.
All right, there's the rocket's core stage, which houses 3 flight computers, is now on its own power. There's no more hold time because there's no more margin on these batteries. So we would have to recycle back to T-minus 10 to recharge if we had a hold.
One minute.
Right now, the rocket does not know what the T0 is, but coming up at T-minus 33 seconds, control shifts from the ground launch sequencer to the rocket's onboard autonomous launch sequencer, or ALS. The rocket will count itself down, but honor any holds that could come from the ground. Now, shortly after liftoff, Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague Gary Jordan will take over commentary.
GLS is go for ALS.
Great call out. The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket NASA has ever launched. Sound suppression water is flowing.
15.
And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston now controlling the flight of integrity on the Artemis II mission around the moon.
Integrity, AMT high.
AMT high.
On time passing 30 seconds into the flights. Integrity passes the alternate beacon. Target milestone. Mission Control Houston seeing good performance on the 4 main engines and Space Launch System core stage. Integrity, 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour. time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q.
On, Ponce de Leon.
Stan, we have you loud and clear on Ponce de Leon.
Have you the same.
Communication signal transfer confirmed as Integrity and its crew go supersonic. Approaching 90 seconds into the Artemis II mission. Integrity is 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour. Minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time, standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%, ahead of solid rocket booster separation, expected at the 2-minute 9-second mark. We see throttle down. Confirmed separation. Main engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
Copy all, Stan.
Integrity, SM priming complete.
SM priming complete.
2 minutes 45 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. Thrusters on Integrity and upper stage confirmed in a ready state, ahead of service module fairing separation. 3 minutes into the flight. Integrity, 49 miles in altitude, 78 miles downrange, now passing 5,000 miles per hour. Standing by for launch abort system jettison.
Houston Integrity, good last jettison, great view.
Copy jettison, Team Eco 8+02.
We see the same on board, Stan.
And Houston has you loud and clear on TDRS at the Kármán line.
Outstanding, Stan, we have you the same.
3 minutes 50 seconds into the flight of Artemis II, Wiseman, Glover, Cook, and Hansen cross the boundary to space with good comm checks. GPS signals acquired after last jettison now working on internal checks to verify accuracy. Flight Dynamics Officer analyzed the time of main engine cutoff, confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds, time of MECO.
Integrity, GPS processing.
Outstanding, Stan. We see the same, and we have a beautiful moonrise. We're headed right at it.
Approaching 5 minutes into the flight, Commander Reed Wiseman confirms he has visuals of his destination. GPS guidance, navigation, and control software finishes internal checks and sends to navigation channels.
Integrity, 3 engine press.
3 engine press.
On time, now passing 5 minutes 20 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. At this point, 3 good main engines are all that's needed to carry Integrity to a nominal main engine cutoff target. Though at this time, we're seeing 4 good engines here in Mission Control Houston. Integrity, 75 miles in altitude, 330 miles downrange, approaching 10,000 miles per hour.
Integrity, looking good at 6 minutes.
Same on board, Stan.
Good trajectory and engine performance. Booster officer will soon report the shutdown plan to Flight Director Judd Friedling, expected at the 7-minute mark. Integrity, 78 miles in altitude, 460 miles downrange.
Integrity, expect nominal shutdown.
Any copies? Nominal shutdown.
Six minutes, 40 seconds of mission elapsed time. Shutdown plan is as expected. Again, the time of MECO was confirmed at 8 minutes, 2 seconds into the flight. Seven minutes of mission elapsed time. Throttling down as we approach the abort once around option. Milestone at the 7-minute 30-second mark. Now 84 miles in altitude, 650 miles downrange, traveling more than 15,000 miles per hour.
Integrity, AOA open.
AOA open.
The window is now open for an abort once around option that would target splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. Still following nominal ascent at this time. About 10 seconds remaining until the main engine cutoff of the Space Launch System core stage. Standing by for confirmation of MECO and core stage separation.
Integrity and nominal MECO, core stage separated.
We see the same on board, Stan.
Eight minutes, 40 seconds into the flight, we have a nominal main engine cutoff heading in the right trajectory on the way to swing around the moon. Core stage has separated, done its job. The Space Launch System upper stage, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, or ICPS, still attached to the Orion spacecraft. Nine minutes of mission elapsed time. Integrity crew of Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen now in orbit around the Earth at the beginning of their journey to the moon.
Integrity Houston, looking ahead to PRM numbers so far per the pad.
Copy that, Stan. Numbers for the pad.
Capcom Stan Loves now reminding the crew that the perigee raise maneuver time of ignition is as expected prior to booster ignition. That time being 49 minutes, 50 seconds of mission elapsed time.
Integrity, good. NEDS deploy.
Copy that, Stan. Good, NEDS.
And Integrity Houston for PWD setup. Just a reminder, halfway open on the secondary.
We copy that, Stan. Halfway open.
Passing 11 minutes of mission elapsed time. Here, overhearing the conversation between Capcom Stan Love and Commander Reed Wiseman, already passing some milestones. We have a good nozzle extension deployment system. That is confirmed, complete. We also have the visors are confirmed up, now past the dynamic phase of flight, that is Ascent. Their launch and entry suits that provided them an extra layer of protection. Now not as needed. They're going to raise those visors. And later in today's mission, they will begin to egress or get out of the suits to begin some of their initial tasks of activating some of the systems aboard in the Integrity spacecraft. It's passing 12 minutes of mission elapsed time. Again,
And there you have it. Artemis II now on its way, has entered Earth orbit. They will continue their service module burn for quite a while now, as they are essentially, we're used to all the engines being cut off by now, but they are going much higher than we saw space shuttles or the space station go. They need to get to a much higher altitude to do a much larger orbit around the Earth in order to build up that speed for tomorrow's burn for translunar injection. This will be a long journey to the moon, roughly 4 days, before they enter the moon's gravity and do their pass. Ultimately, this is a 9 to 10 day mission overall. And the crew will be spending all of those days conducting various experiments, testing all of Artemis's systems, testing the Orion capsule and its ability to not only do what it is designed to do, but also to function in an emergency situation. This mission is designed to test everything that has to do with flight. The next test, Artemis III, which has not been scheduled yet, is going to be testing orbital capabilities over the moon, and then Artemis IV is the mission currently scheduled to land on the moon for the first time in more than 50 years. So the crew will continue their burn. As you heard, they will get out of their space suits once that is complete, and then they will begin the work of testing all the systems. Coming up in about 3 hours, they will be separating the Orion crew capsule from the service module and conducting maneuvers. And they will do that translunar injection, that burn, to get out of Earth's gravity in just about 24 hours. So they're going to be spending a day flying around the Earth at a much higher altitude than we're used to. And we will be bringing you all of the incredible pictures. NASA has worked to improve communication with the Artemis rocket, with the Orion crew capsule, so that they can provide more live pictures, more video throughout the duration of this mission, both inside the capsule and outside as they approach the moon. So we will be bringing you all of that throughout the week and into next week during the mission of Artemis II. That's going to do it for our special report. I want to thank everybody for joining us on social media as well as on our 24/7 channel. We will continue live coverage as needed during this mission, and we will be bringing you all of the latest from Artemis II. Don't forget, we will be back here tonight just before 8 o'clock as President Trump is addressing the nation tonight on matters dealing with the war with Iran. And we will bring you that, as well as Iran's response to the president's address, coming up tonight around 8 o'clock. Until then, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and we will see you tonight at 8 o'clock.
Farther from Earth than any